there we are, our very first meetup, Team Copilot meetup. I'm so excited for this first edition, and that's a good one because we have here Mona with us. Mona, welcome to the first meetup. Yeah, let's hit it on. Let's getting started with your session. And introduce
Awesome.
yourself,
Well,
please.
first, yes, thank you so much for having me. I have been a longtime believer in being a trailblazer, and this is, just another place where, Femke, you and I have been very much on the same page. Somebody has to start. Someone has to show that it's safe and that it's okay, and that this is a community where we want to learn and grow together. So I'm excited to help shape the culture of Team Copilot, the culture of these types of presentations, and I hope you get something fun out of this presentation. So my name is Mona Gadiri. I'm a Microsoft MVP in both SIM and XDR and cloud security. And on the side, I specialize in Copilot for all kinds of other different applications too, right? Including making my own life better. I'm a Microsoft MVP, like I said, in security stuff. And I currently work for Capgemini to start on the right foot, and you kind of need some guidance. And there's a lot of things that have just changed over the last, even from last week to this week, with the announcements at Microsoft Build, that I really felt it was a cool opportunity for us, or the different kind of natural. So why we need to kind of do the work that we're doing, and why context switching is our enemy in this new age of using AI. We're going to talk about how much the average Joe or Jill needs to know about permissions. We're going to talk a lot about, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll have real life ways to think about the way that you can interact with AI when it comes to collecting information, when it comes to synthesizing information, and when it comes to getting more standardized and responses and questions from both your team and also the models that you choose to use. So of realizing how much time it takes you to get refocused or invigorated into something if you get pulled away from it. So the most common examples I think about are, when somebody is learning how to play an instrument, they practice. It's about showing up and practicing every day and doing the practice. And if you get distracted, it's okay. And this is learning how to play an instrument, switching, because it's just trying to get your brain to focus on practicing, once a day, right? Editing, right? Editing takes a lot more brain. I think about how much brain it takes to write your own music, right? And how much focus you need to have when you're trying to, write your own music, or write. Very hard to come back into it and focus and be able to come right back into, the thing that you were doing, right? When I think about work of brain that it takes me right now, I want it to be more like improvisation, where it's second nature. I want it to be a way where you know what other people are playing, or you know what the other agents are doing, so you know when to come in, you know what the beat is, you know, because you feel it inside of you, because it's part of who you are. You're not switching contexts anymore. Guardrail translate when it's second nature, and you're not thinking about what your brain needs to be doing, or what your hands need to be doing, or what your feet need to be doing. It just work with AI. You can think about this in this idea of ask, edit, agent, and you're going to see this context show up more and more, right? Because there are so many ways to use AI and ways to interact with the tools, right, or the instruments, right, that are in front of you. So, if you're on your AI journey and you're wondering, how do I move between, I'm gonna things get a little bit better here. Let's see. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to see what I can do here. Or if you guys want to kill my video while I'm presenting, that's fine too. So we have this idea of context switching, and our goal in using AI is to make it feel as much like it's second nature as humanly possible. So let's talk a little bit about permissions and why permissions stop us and make us, go into these different context switching problems. One is that, oftentimes the questions that we ask, we don't know if we're supposed to losing context, or feeling that things are, trading off back and forth between, what I think. Sure that you have Pilot, make the right permissions to see the data that you want, right? And, in my line of work, we're security specific things. Usually there is an elevated level of privilege, whether that's team ownership,
Mona,
or SharePoint, or Exchange.
Mona.
But if you want to, be able to look across lots of different
Mona, I don't know if you
music,
can hear
or
me.
learn about different ways that instrument is played, right?
Mona, can you hear me?
We're hoping for here. When we move on
Mona, can you hear me?
to thinking about, oh yeah, hi.
Hey, Mona, can you hear me? Sorry, the internet
Yeah,
is
what's up?
really the internet is really bad, so we cannot hear you. I'm
Okay.
so sorry to interrupt, but I was thinking.
Let me see what I can do.
Sorry for that.
One second here. Yeah, sorry everybody. I'm gonna
it's no problem, but I think
do to modify this. I'm gonna stop my camera and see if maybe the audio just comes through a little bit better. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, I'm gonna keep the video off and just hope that you guys can focus on the recording and get the video, at least of the slides, moving okay. So if you guys missed a little bit about what I was talking about before, the goal here, right, is to talk about the context switching that we're doing as we're learning AI, so that we can play like this is jazz music, and not treat this like we're doing this once a day, but not get so deep into this that all of us have to become folks who write our own music. Improv is perfectly fine, but you need the right constraints and the right ways of thinking about your musical journey to get where you need to go. So when I talk about making decisions with AI or trying to talk to AI, it always comes back to my own, training, which is that my mom was an ESL teacher, and when she was in ESL, in English as the building blocks, as the smaller pieces. Learning slang or learning a word here or there is really not going to get you the type of fluency that you're looking for. So the first building is syntax. Otherwise, the ways in which we communicate with the AI, depending on the different person or the way that they speak or their native language, is going to dramatically alter the responses that we get. Right. I just took these examples. I work in security, and so I was thinking about security context, but anything you see here in brackets, right? Security incidents, conditions, tag type, time period, right? Can really be interchanged to any context that you're thinking of. And that's what we mean when we say syntax. We mean we want the things that are interchangeable to be like what we call in the United States Mad Libs, right? So put a noun here, put a verb here, put an adverb here, right? Put the time period, right? And then you're going to have a much more standardized approach to the way that you both teach others how to use AI and also how you use it yourself. Because these templates, or this kind of way of templated thinking, you're going to see reflected in the way that the tools themselves work too. So if you think like this, and the way that the tools are starting to conceptualize templates or templating within their own federated designs, it means that we're going to have a much higher likelihood of aligning the things that we want to say with the things that we want to get out of our experience with AI. So when we say syntax, what we mean is sentence structures. Why we want sentence structures are because these interchangeable parts of the sentence mean that we get better answers because repeatable structures are being used every time we're asking. So it's not to say that this is code, but it is Mad Libs. And Mad Libs, are great because they help you be creative, but they keep you standardized so you can at least kind of, like I said, stay in the guardrails. So, if you stage of where prompting and, the kind of different directions of, how we talk to the agent and how we, do work in our business, there's this idea of something called a prompt card. Prompt cards are to Copilot what SOPs are to your business. So like the ways in which you want them to answer or the standardized methods in which they should be responding very much are available to us, as we begin to design our agents or as we think about, how we bring standardization through syntax into our day-to-day, work in how we're doing security, whether it's security Copilot or regular Copilot, right? So you may be like, Mona, this is a very academic way to think about this. Everyone else has just been telling me like shortcuts of like what I should be typing. Why are you focused on, the structure, and why are you focused on, teaching me this layer when really I just want to copy paste sentences in here? I'm here to tell you that if you want to scale from your 1 hour a day experience or your world of just learning how to play an instrument and be able to get to editing, that is the next place where we differentiate ourselves and where we continue to grow in our experience. And we can't edit things unless we have templates. And if we have templates, then we can step back and say, yes, we know that what we're going to get is repeatable. We know that what we're going to get is usable in time over time, or we know how to edit the things that we need to make the changes reflect the type of answers that my business needs or that I need or my coworkers need. So I know that this has been, a little bit more academic, but I promise I have a point, right? So if you think about prompt cards as shortcuts, right? In my world, we have security operations centers, we have threat intelligence feeds, and then we have this like idea that we're chasing of this like cyber fusion cell, which is like going to change the way that people do threat intelligence. I took this example because it's relevant for me, but you can use the same, you know, analogy across uh, any other. The first problem that we have with the things that we're trying to, there we go. The way that we think about this, right, is that the SOC is in pursuit of standardized threat intelligence so that we can get latest and greatest information. But if I have, another group that's also using threat intelligence for something different, and they are using AI also, they may have a very different way of talking about the very same thing, right? What the SOC is calling, or was calling TI feeds, now there's this cyber fusion cell concept that people are like, oh, you know what? I really would like this whole cyber fusion cell of everybody working, together. Like, how would we even get there? Well, the first step is standardization, and we can't just use these threat intelligence feeds because they're not malleable enough. But what we can say is something like threat intelligence feeds are modular enough that there are combinations of collection, synthesis, actions, and explainability that, whether I'm talking like a threat report, or I'm talking to a SOC analyst about getting enrichment in their current incident workflow, we can use the same kinds of prompt cards and these same modularity pieces to give everybody the same them to have. So let's talk about collecting and synthesizing, and then we'll put that together into our prompt cards. So when we talk about collecting information, usually if people say like, where did I save this? Can you look for this? Can you find this for me? And what we realize, and what I've realized through my own research, is that there are actually 4 excellent words, phrases, right? Syntax pieces to use that optimally get you the extraction, retrieval, or aggregation outcome that you're looking for. Collect, find every, show me, list all. The goal is to be comprehensive. The goal is to say, like, don't just find one thing, but look for everything, right? And you'll find that difference, show me all of these, show me some of these, show me none of these, right, are going to give you very, very different outcomes, right? But if our goal is extraction, retrieval, or aggregation, these are the 4 words that will give you the outcomes that you're looking for most repetitively. So if you say, what's my first building block? If in that example of threat intelligence, I want to say, list all of the devices that have, the same hash for this IOC. Find every device, that has that particular, operating system on it. Collect all of the, device information from threat hunting logs for these, right? They're all still collection, right? And the goal is that, whether you use one or many of these, the idea is to try to leverage these 4 as kind of the biggest building blocks or most helpful to employ in your own syntactic template world. In terms of synthesis, there's 4 other words, right? And these are going to be signifying that you want the model to abstract things from your data. Explain, compare, condense, summarize, right? These are going to be signifiers that I really am looking for more than just, collection, right? Or in fact, I probably have to have done collection stuff first before I even get to synthesis. So again, if you're looking for words, or you're looking for like key phrases, or like things to put on a sticky note next to your monitor that will help you use the right words to get the things that you want out of AI, these are great building blocks in terms of making sure that you are properly articulating to the model the outcome that you're looking for by just using the right keywords. Bonus round. In my example, right, for threat intelligence and what we were kind of talking about, right, I had this idea of scope and format, right? Look over the last 30 days, look over the last, time frame. If you really want to level up, your template, right? Be really specific, about scope and format. And this is where you can go back and look at a lot of the prompts that we have put out as Team Copilot, and you can see like here's where all of those check boxes are met even in those examples, right? So it's like a different version of sentence structure written out, but you could go and point out in any of those examples of any of the ones that Anna and Justine and Femke and I put together. They will show you that these key components, you can see them reflected in all of those prompts that we've shared with you. Even though you may not have noticed or been paying attention. So the next part about this, right, is that now we have the words, we understand the syntax. The next building block, right, in getting to being able to improvise is something called prompt chaining, right? So the best examples I can give of these are things like, now that we've done this, highlight why, or like do this, then that. And once you get to these prompt chaining types of concepts, you're ready to use like Copilot Studio prompt cards. And again, these are more like flashcards that help you, get from nothing to something. And the best ones do things like collect, synthesize, decide, generate, or transform information. So in the example above, using transitional language, now that we've collected, X, generate Y, decide X, transform this data into whatever, right? So if we take these small building blocks and now we chain them together, and we chain them together using prompt cards, this becomes the most repeatable, usable way in terms of like meeting you where you are and doing your work where you are, to get you the types of outcomes that I think all of us have aspirationally been hoping, that agents and AI will do. So if you think about, what these prompt cards allow us to do, or what makes a good prompt card, we really need to take the paradigms that we were talking about of collection and synthesis and pair them with things like synthesis and generation. So when you collect data, you're scoping your queries, it's very much about like, who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? And usually there's some sort of something you want to do with the output that will then, govern a different action. Synthesis plus generation is equally powerful, but it's very much more used for things like postmortem analysis, or create me an incident timeline based on what you've synthesized, or here are the 20 steps that you need to follow in order to get from A to B. Like those are all going to be, synthesis and generation. Why do I create these categories? Why are they useful to you? Because this is our Dewey Decimal System, right? This is our means to organize ourselves. Because if we don't have a way to categorize the types of prompt cards that we're creating, we're not categorizing the problems that we're trying to solve with those prompts, we're going to end up with garbage in and garbage out, right? Which means that, person to person, they're going to have very different experiences using Copilot. They're going to struggle trying to understand what they're supposed to be doing, because they're going to be trying to do too many of these things at once. So from my perspective and kind of where we are organizationally, it's as important to catalog as it is to create. And what is good and what is bad has to start with that cataloging process. And there need to be guardrails within your own organ to govern your own prompting library experience that you and other users within your organizations may be trying to build right now. So I'm going to do one more meta thing for you guys, which is, typical for me. But you can also take 2 steps back and say, look, Mona, great idea, and have a user just be focused on like filling out a form or answering these 5 questions or 4 questions, and then actually creating prompt cards. So again, this is a little bit meta, and it's a little bit more about before, but this is the cool thing about AI. You always have an opportunity to be reflexive. For whatever you're trying to build or get the answer from the AI, use the AI to help you build the answer, right? So my recommendation to you as your organization, right, would be to think about building an agent that actually is a prompt card generator, and give it parameters like task first, not tool first, or we only build prompt chains, we don't do single prompts, right? They follow this Mad Libs concept. They're reduced to just one card for one job, and we're not trying to mix a whole bunch of things together. We can have the cards be to specific personas that are drop downs in the form for the end users, so they're not off making random prompts and agents for things that don't make sense. And my favorite is actually having the agent version and also store and help you come up with how you're going to store the cards and where you're going to back them up and where you're going to be able to look at what version someone used 2 weeks ago and think about what it should be next time, and get to a reflexive way of even considering what's possible, right? So my goal to you is this is the level of improvisation that my brain just goes to. As I was making this presentation, I was like, what would be really cool actually is if I had an agent that could just build these things, right? And so this is the opportunity that I want to show to you guys, right? What does good look like? What does getting to a point where I feel like I'm, thinking in ways that are beyond what I maybe was capable of doing on my own is an idea like this, right? If we're able to do the thought exercise that says, hey, you know what? Actually, this idea of even building cards should be repeatable. Even this idea of creating these prompts should be more repeatable than just me, copying these prompts into some repository, is really to guide the AI in the ways that we wanted to give our answers so that we have a much more successful experience working with the AI models, regardless of which model you choose. So this is my homework to you. My hope that every one of these Copilot Team Copilot talks does is, here's some homework. Try to build a prompt card generator. Try to do this on your own and let me know how it works out. Let me know where you get stuck. Let me know if this is something that, from an article that we could put together and a step-by-step instructions type of thing that would be beneficial for you as a user, or is it better to try to learn it and, just struggle through it on your own, right? The cool part about this is that because a prompt card generator is something that's more applicable to just one person or one organization, it's the kind of thing that, if somebody does want to collaborate or did want to think about, how to make these more scalable or talk about ways to bring, this idea of prompt card generation into your workflow, these are the people in the world who would help you. These are the people in the world who I would want, you to ask for help for. But I hope that this talk and the way that I've kind of conceived of our agenda made sense to you, that showing how we go from, learning how to play an instrument to this reflexive idea of even building, an agent that is a prompt card generator shows you just one example of the ways that AI can change our thinking and change even the ways that we may propose fixing the problems that we know exist even right now. So yeah, I apologize that my internet was not great, but I do hope that you guys got an opportunity to learn a little bit more about me, learn a little bit more about the way my brain works and thinks about prompt engineering in general, and some of these new things like prompt cards. But if anybody has questions, feel free to reach out to me or throw them in the chat. And I apologize, like I said, for the audio quality.
So Mona, thank you very much for this inspirational webinar. The internet was not so good, but first in the beginning and afterwards it was much better. Thank you so much for joining us and doing this for us. If someone has some questions, please reach out to Mona. She's there to help you if you need it. I'm more than proud that we have our first Team Copilot meetup with so many amazing people who showed up and who had listened to you. Also, thank you to Jeroen. Jeroen is the one behind the desk who is streaming all this. So Jeroen, thank you so much. Our chief streaming.
Chief streaming officer and chief cheerleader.
So awesome. What we want to do is like doing more meetups, of course. We want to set up every month a new meetup and give someone a spotlight to share knowledge and information around the fields from Copilot. For now, I just want to thank you, Mona, for your time and all the things that you're doing for us in the community, sharing your knowledge, being here, and as well on Build last week. A busy calendar. Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon. And to the next meetup, I will say.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. This is amazing. Good luck, everybody, with your prompt generation and your prompt generator cards and agents.
Yes,
we'll get there together.
Let us know how it is, what you built. Bye-bye.
Bye.